right, Will, welcome to the BlockHash podcast live. Once again, how are you doing, man? What's up?
I'm doing great. Hey.
Yeah, it's nice to have you. I know you're kind of battling through some COVID here, so take it easy as we go. Don't worry. But yeah, tell me a little bit about you. Where are you based? Where are you from? What's your story?
Yeah, I'm from the UK. I'm an engineer by background. I got obsessed by crypto in 2014 and started diving into Ethereum. When I left uni, I basically went straight into crypto. I had a brief stop at IBM, who were doing blockchain stuff, but it wasn't as glamorous as everything I was seeing happening in Ethereum and Bitcoin. And so I pretty quickly left and went full time. And I started off working for Bitfinex, which was one of the largest exchanges. At the time, it was the largest exchange. And my role was like specifically around Ethereum. So bringing Ethereum assets onto the exchange, doing a couple of smaller projects with it. And basically been full-time in crypto since. We founded DeversiFi in 2019. And the idea was that now was the time to build a layer 2 exchange on. No one had done that before, but I'd been really involved with a few different teams who are working on layer 2 tech. It was the most exciting thing I thought going on. And so we formed a team and started building it. And the exchange has been live now for a year, and it's sort of changed quite a lot since.
Yeah, you said you were with IBM for a while and it wasn't as glamorous as you thought. What do you mean by that exactly?
So any big company, I think, can be a bit different than working in startup world. I mean, literally what's happening in crypto and DeFi is kind of the most extreme version of anything goes. It's complete like playground for someone who's got a technical background, really for anyone who's interested in tech. But like a lot of the bigger companies provide a lot of support. But the thing, for example, IBM was like really into blockchain, but it was very much like enterprise blockchain. So it wasn't Ethereum, smart contracts. It was using specific languages, working with banks who wanted to do like prototypes. And so not the most like exciting way to get into crypto, but I didn't last too long there, and then went into kind of what I see as being like the real public blockchain space.
Okay, so you kind of wanted to get away from the whole centralized, ecosystem and model and do something in the space.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about DeversiFi a little bit, since that's what you kind of do. What is it? What's the mission? What's the goal? What's the purpose of it?
So really the mission for us at DeversiFi is, right now, DeFi is like grown really fast in the last year. Most people in crypto have now heard of DeFi, maybe use it to earn interest, trade, whatever else. But it's still very much in like the kind of early adopter phase. So most people will have experienced failed transactions, paying huge gas prices for all sorts of things. Can be really frustrating, really confusing, and it's very much inaccessible for mainstream users. And what we're trying to do is really make a DeFi hub where you can do 99% plus of what people want to do in DeFi, which is earn interest, trade, transfer tokens to other people, all without having to deal with the kind of friction, having to deal with cost, but while it's still decentralized. So you can connect your wallet like MetaMask, Ledger, whatever else it is, and access all this stuff as like a full, well-rounded single hub for DeFi. And we've done like a lot of that. So we launched a year ago as really just the exchange side, and now you can yield on your assets, you can trade, you can transfer, you can do a lot more. And we're launching like mobile very soon, and AMM pools and a few other sort of pieces, which will really mean that it's somewhere where you can really do all of DeFi without having to jump between lots of different protocols and UIs.
Yeah, when you say that DeversiFi is like a centralized hub for that, like what things can people do with DeversiFi, or like what are some of the tools or the offerings that you have for DeFi users?
So right now, you can swap. You can also do more advanced trading if you're into that on an order book with lots of different order types. You can transfer tokens to other people without paying any gas cost, any Ethereum token, and you can also earn yield. So, for example, you can get like 3 or 4% on on USDT via Compound, and you don't need to deposit and withdraw directly on Compound to do that. You can do it in DeversiFi and still get that interest. So it's pretty broad, and there's a bunch of other things coming soon. So the biggest one in a couple of weeks' time is going to be being able to deposit and become a liquidity provider. So you're basically then using your assets and earning yield on them for providing liquidity. Yeah, we're really happy with, and the user experience is really slick and easy, but it's getting easier every day. The only thing we really want to launch soon is the kind of mobile experience, because that's going to kind of take it to the next level where anyone can just start to do this stuff from a phone.
Yeah. How does the mobile experience take it to a different level? It's just ease of access and being able to do it on your phone, or are there tools that you want to offer specifically for a mobile user?
So it's the fact that you can manage from your phone, but also really optimizing that experience to make it super easy, like one click to do all this stuff on the go. And I think that's the kind of step that's missing a bit, and especially right now, where if you want to do most of the stuff in DeFi, you need to go to 5 or 6 different websites to do it all, and that's even harder on your phone, obviously. So just bringing it all into one place to manage your portfolio, and being on layer 2 means there's no cost to do all of that.
Yeah, how does it stack up versus just using like Uniswap or PancakeSwap or one of the other dexes or swaps out there? If you want to be in DeFi, is it easier to use? Is it cheaper to use? Are there any liquidity concerns?
Yeah, so like looking versus Uniswap, for example, Uniswap got like a huge range of tokens, good liquidity on a lot of them because it's so easy to add liquidity. And that means that a lot of tokens have good liquidity there. But especially when gas is high, it's really inaccessible to most people. Like, I think it's one in 3 trades essentially fails due to slippage or something else, which costs gas. And when gas is high, like a trade could be $50 plus. So the big difference for DeversiFi is that there's no cost there's no gas, like Ethereum gas cost on trading, but you still access really good liquidity. And right now, it's good liquidity on kind of 30 different assets, but the launch of these AMM pairs, which is essentially the same model as Uniswap, will mean that it'll be really easy to add liquidity there as well. So at that point, it becomes like very comparable in terms of the number of tokens that will be available, but with hugely reduced cost. And the nice thing as well is once you've done a trade, you can also then earn interest and do other stuff with it, all in DeversiFi.
Yeah, it also says you can invest, trade, and send tokens without paying gas fees. How do you manage not making it so that they don't have to pay gas fees doing that?
So this is where the layer 2 tech comes in. It's kind of like the most exciting thing really about DeversiFi, at least like as a technical person. So we're using something called zero knowledge proof, which basically means we batch together thousands of transactions into a single cryptographic proof, which is what gets submitted onto Ethereum. So you don't put every single trade on, which would cost gas. You actually just put this single proof at the end of a batch. We're working with Starkware, which is kind of one of the really the leader in this type of tech, and so that's what we use to generate these proofs. And it means that we can put in basically as many as we want, and the cost is the same. So whether there's like 1,000 transactions or 100,000, it's pretty much the same cost and the same amount of gas used on Ethereum. And so you can fit a lot more transactions, much higher trading throughput, without the user having to pay for it, which is kind of what happens on Ethereum today, is that when people want to trade more because the prices are moving, the gas fees go up loads, because Ethereum just becomes so congested.
Yeah, that's such a big deal. Those gas fees get really expensive. It really pisses me off sometimes, especially when you're like dabbling with like NFTs and stuff like that. I've sold some for like $100, and then I'd get like $100 like gas fee. I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah,
it's so annoying.
Like, and so much stuff just becomes gas. I mean, that's basically what happened to us. We were all like, trying to trade, trying to ape into stuff, and losing all our money in gas. And so that's kind of partly why we built this, because it's not and right now that's just with like a few thousand people basically in DeFi. But a year or two from now, if everyone wants to be using crypto, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, it's super annoying. I also saw you guys had a token too. Let me pull that back up.
Yeah, so
What's what's the DeversiFi token?
the DeversiFi token is just about to launch. So this like page has probably just gone live, so we kind of built the protocol and the app and the exchange and like the website all over the last year, and launched it and started to get lots more users. It's been like growing quite nicely organically, but basically this sort of underlying protocol, the tech I just talked about that batches this together, puts all these trades onto layer 2 and puts them to Ethereum, that we want to be governed by users and by token holders, fully decentralized governance. And so DeversiFi token will be the token to do that. And we did a like a kind of pre-sale to some really impressive VCs and supporters in the industry a couple months ago. And the token's about to launch for everyone else, for the public, in the next week. So it's going to start off with a DeversiFi launch market, which will be the first place to basically get tokens, buying them in DeversiFi in like a really fair launch manner. And then most of the tokens, more than 50%, will be distributed to users who basically provide liquidity or use DeversiFi in other ways. So it will mean that if we're looking at the token distribution 6 months from now, most of the tokens will belong to the community and will have been distributed in a really fair way with a really wide distribution. And we think that's the best way to like help DeversiFi grow from here, because rather than it being our team who has sort of built and managed this decentralized protocol for layer 2 trading, we want it to really be users. And I think that's the best way to like really help what we've done now grow. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And just literally on the 8th, so in a couple of days, will be the DeversiFi launch market where people can get those tokens.
Yeah, where are people going to be able to get those tokens? Like, is it going to be on certain exchanges or?
So the first event will be on DeversiFi. So you'll have to create an account and then be able to buy them through that. But then very soon afterwards, 2 days afterwards, a Uniswap pool will be seeded. So it'll be possible to get them there too. And then it'll likely be on a few other exchanges afterwards.
Yeah, who was involved in the pre-sale, or are you allowed to mention?
Yeah, so it was led by ParaFi, who have been involved with a whole bunch of projects in the space. We also had Defiance Capital, Delphi Digital, Fenbushi VC, and a bunch of other really really well-respected supporters. It was really important to us that there wasn't just like one big fund that got all the tokens. It was really well distributed and spread out. So that there will projects also, sort of teams that we know and have like seen support early DeFi protocols in a really active way. They participate in governance. They don't just like hold these tokens and sell them. And all of the tokens that were sold are basically vested for 3 years. So all of these people have basically looked at it and said like, yeah, we're willing to support and really be part of governance for a long time, not just kind of disappear into the ether, which is one of the things that's like gone wrong with a bunch of DeFi protocols.
Did you guys use like a SAFT for the vesting?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Where did you do the SAFT through?
What do you mean by do it through?
Like I've done a few different SAFTs before. Usually they're like through like CoinList or something like that. Like, did you use a platform like that, or did you just do it straight through DeversiFi? Or?
Yeah, no, it was just a simple agreement. I mean, we just did a small it directly. I mean, most of these funds, we spoke with for a while and have known for a while in terms of giving us advice on what we built. So it was only 30 people participating.
Okay, got it. Do you guys offer like I can't remember if you mentioned it or not, but like lending through DeversiFi? Like if someone has like a bunch of like, I don't know, crypto and they want to borrow against it or use it as collateral, like do you have solutions for that?
So right now it's not like a pure lending market, but it's it's lending via other DeFi protocols. So you can lend into like the Compound pool or the Aave pool, but you can't lend to another user. In the future, there will be an expansion of that so that it's kind of more what you're probably imagining, where you can literally like borrow from someone else and use that as collateral in different currencies. But most of the yield markets that we have currently come from Compound, and like the next set will be from Yearn. So if you wanted to earn yield via that, it's kind of the same. But yeah, so it basically lets you lend out, but not like have a two-way market right now.
Okay, got it. Separate from that though, what are your thoughts on, DeFi as a market? I've asked a bunch of people this question. Everyone has like different opinions, but they're still like very positive or bullish about it. But like, where do you see this market, going, and how do you see it shaping up, the rest of the year and then, beyond to 2021?
So, I mean, I'm sure everyone has a different opinion to this.
Yeah.
You probably won't agree with me. I mean, I think it's not. I think it's like we're in this period of consolidation now, where a lot of stuff happened so fast over the last year, really since kind of DeFi summer last year, and we've gotten used to like this feeling that everything's happening all the time. There's constantly new innovation, and that's because like loads of teams have been building for the last 3 years and then launched it all. And so we kind of felt like it was all happening so fast. It does feel now like things are slowing down a little bit. People have gone away on their holidays. The price has been like really stable. We have had a big drop like a couple months, like a month or two ago, and I think all of that's natural. I think we kind of need a bit more time for like a lot of projects to come back to the point that they're ready to ship new stuff. So like our team is very much of the mindset that what we're actually building for is kind of 2 years from now, which will be the next wave where many more people are coming in to experience DeFi who aren't just like the early adopters. And so the platform like that we're building with DeversiFi is kind of aimed at that. It's aimed for like a next bigger wave of people who want to experience DeFi. And we're kind of happy if for 6 months we can just keep focusing on building. That said, even now there's a lot of really cool stuff happening. And I feel like a lot of people are like taking their eyes off the ball and not looking so closely, but actually there's still a lot of really good opportunities and early stage stuff. If you're keen on like diving in a bit more detail. So I'm still really positive overall, but not expecting like everyone I know to suddenly like do 10 times their make 10 times their money in the next 2 weeks, which is kind of what was happening 6 months ago. So yeah, it's probably healthy, and like that's my view, but maybe not the most positive in the world.
Yeah, it's definitely a very saturated space. Like there's a lot of different, dexes and projects, everything, all the food swaps, everything. It feels very competitive, and feels like there's a lot of different directions in the space, a lot of different players in the space. Do you think that that's gonna consolidate a bit more in the future, and you'll see a lot less of them, or do you think there'll be like a really wide diversity? Maybe you have, I don't know, one DEX for one type of thing and another DEX for a different type of thing. It just feels like there's too many of them, and I can't keep up with all of them. And it's almost a little bit of a problem because I see new ones popping up all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree, but I don't think we're yet at the point of consolidation. I mean, like, I think a lot of people are quite willing to be like, quite willing to say, okay, DeFi is already here. We've got the winners already, like Aave, Compound, Uniswap, Sushi, maybe. But I think it's like way too early for that. The reality is, as I keep saying, like it's really just early adopters still who are using these protocols directly, especially on Ethereum. And now we're seeing like the same stuff happen on Solana and other new chains. I mean, Cosmos and Polkadot are also only just launching, and there's loads of quite cool stuff happening on there. So I think it's way too early for that like real consolidation to happen. There's still so much innovation. Like layer 2 things like DeversiFi are only just getting more and more users. And so it's so early also on that. Arbitrum is launching, etc. So personally, I think the biggest competition right now is over talent, and like if you can hiring good Solidity developers, hiring good engineers, full stop, in the space is so hard. And I think that's going to be partly like what will determine who the next range of things rising up. But there will be a lot of exchanges, a lot of other protocols, everything else that won't be able to do that, and then won't be able to build anything good, and will disappear. But yeah, I think it's I think the race is like only just beginning rather than already won.
Yeah, it's very early, and obviously it's a space within blockchain that's very, very new. It's been around for, I don't know, what, a year, really? A year and a half?
Yeah, maybe a little longer, but like in terms of people actually, I mean, it's genuinely shocking if you look at Uniswap trading volumes from like a year and a half ago. It's like unbelievable how low they were, and like now we kind of take it for granted that like there's billions of dollars a day like trading in DeFi, but that is just like such a new thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you think that that trade volume, that much interest in DeFi and these dexes, could eventually lead the way or pave the way towards, replacing a lot of the centralized entities and exchanges out there? Or do you think that they, have a place still and that, will maintain a lot of that trade volume within the market? Because it feels like DeFi can solve a lot of those problems, and it looks like it's going that way. And I know a lot of those big exchanges got to be kind of worried about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going that way, and I think big exchanges will adapt because they have quite an important role to like already in terms of A, having existing users, but B, helping with onboarding in different jurisdictions, having a legal presence, being able to help people get their money in and out, which ultimately for a lot of people is still the most important thing. And we will see, I think, centralized exchanges adapt quite well to DeFi, and there are quite a few that already, for example, let you access various aspects of DeFi from like your centralized account, so you can deposit into like various yield earning protocols from some of the top centralized exchanges. But I think what won't change is the direction of travel, which is that people are getting used to using their own wallet to access DeFi. So whether that, for most people, that's probably MetaMask. And once you get used to having your funds in MetaMask and being able to trade instantly or being able to earn yield without needing to like log in with a password and deposit funds to something, I think that's like almost like a freedom that people sort of start to take for granted. And so I think we'll see like a one-way travel long term where people get used to doing everything from their personal wallet rather than getting used to doing everything from a centralized exchange. And that'll probably still be like for some people and for like a big number of people who, first of all, like less experienced or more worried about having their own custody. But I think the gradual migration will always be towards self-sovereign wallets. And so something like DeversiFi, where you just connect your wallet and then can access all this stuff, I think will appeal to a very fast-growing set of the people in crypto. And so that's why I also think DeFi overall is going to grow faster than centralized exchanges.
What's a good self-sovereign wallet that you mentioned it? And there's a lot of wallets out there, obviously. But is there like any in particular that stand out or that pop out that are good, for DeFi, or that just connect better or that have that integration?
Yeah, I mean, by far and away, MetaMask is just like, the most widely supported anywhere. And there is a mobile version. But personally, I'm just like a major fan of Ledger. I use my Ledger pretty much with everything. Sometimes via MetaMask, but ultimately you're still like comfortable that your private key is on only that hardware device. And it's natively supported on DeversiFi. It's natively supported in like a bunch of different apps. And so I think hardware wallet, if you have more than a certain amount of crypto, is like always the right choice. But the reality is wallet UX is really tough and really bad in most cases. And I think that was one of the biggest struggles launching DeversiFi was we could build a layer 2 platform and like make the UX on our side really good. But when you're then relying on people, like some people could turn up and use a wallet you've never even heard of and connect it. And you can't control really what the user experience is like and what the journey is like for that user. So it's quite a sort of tough realization to kind of let go of that control for a lot of people. And there are a lot of like amazing wallets that I've like tried out, but the problem is no one uses them, and like there's not really often like we've spent time integrating some new wallet which we know has a much better user experience than MetaMask, like with any app, but then 6 months later, it would have disappeared because no one used it and they couldn't get funding. So it's still quite like a dead space in the wallet world. But I think that will change. Ultimately, wallets are going to be, I think, the number one place where people have their funds and use to access all these services. And so it's quite an exciting thing to work on for a lot of teams.
Yeah, I still use my ledger actually. It's really nice and really convenient, obviously secure, but it's kind of hard to utilize if you're, I don't know, not necessarily inclined in crypto yet, or you don't really understand it that well. There's just so many steps. Like if I need, I can install like maybe 4 of the wallet apps on my ledger, but there's like 100 of them. So if I want to use another one, I have to delete an app and then I have to reinstall an app. And then there's always firmware upgrades and they have different they keep changing their software, and I have to re-upload and download to my computer, and I don't know, it gets a little confusing. I know they have it for like mobile, but it'd be nice if they kind of simplified the whole user experience for hardware wallets, because that's what people should be using, right? Is they should be using hardware wallets, just safer that way.
Yeah, and I think there's also like a few people, someone I know who's working on a project which is basically turning your phone into a hardware wallet. But then of course like it's and like the user experience that could be really good, but then it's connected to the internet. Like, do you trust it as much? So like there's quite a annoying trade-off there. And like your ledger you probably do trust, but it's a kind of annoying to use sometimes, and you have to click lots of buttons. So yeah, the trade-off is quite tricky.
Yeah, definitely a tricky trade-off. Regarding DeversiFi, what's your guys's, your roadmap look like the rest of 2021? What do you guys have coming out that you want people to really be aware of, or do you have key updates or key things you're launching? I know you talked about like the mobile version and a few other things that you guys want to launch, but is there anything in particular that you want people to keep an eye on?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for us is this week we're launching like a UX redesign, which is kind of a new app really. It's like redesigned around users, much better experience. And then on the 8th, doing this initial distribution event where the DeversiFi governance token will launch. Straight after that, we'll be launching the governance. And then the kind of major thing we've been working on for the last few months is these AMM pools. So Uniswap-like automated market maker pools where anyone can deposit liquidity and you earn fees for doing that, but you'll also earn this DeversiFi governance token. So it's kind of basically the ability to earn these for participating. And that will mean that we should get a lot more tokens traded on DeversiFi and really good liquidity on them, which is going to, I think, see DeversiFi grow a lot. And then most of our focus for the kind of rest of the year after that is going to be around this, launching this mobile version, making DeversiFi as accessible as possible for as many people as possible. So that will also include like bridges for deposits, depositing fiat directly, connecting more and more wallets. So just like kind of really broadening the number of people who can access, number of languages they can use, and mobile, of course, which I think will, mean that a lot more people can start to manage their portfolio on layer 2 without ever having to pay gas fees again, which is kind of our goal.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about AMMs lately, automated market makers. Is that relatively new in the space, or has that been around for a while?
So I suppose it's been around really for 3+ years. Bancor arguably was the first sort of major use of it on Ethereum, but never got huge traction. Uniswap version 1, version 2, and version 3 were kind of like, I think, the ones that made it really big in terms of everyone hearing about AMMs and starting to use them for the first time. And really, I think the kind of biggest innovation of what an automated market maker is just the fact that in the past, if you wanted to be a market maker, most people wouldn't even know necessarily what that meant, but basically you would have to connect to an exchange, write loads of code yourself to place loads of orders on your behalf with a bot, like maybe buying and selling around different prices. It's pretty complicated. You then have to run that on a server that you set up. You'd have to pay some money to do that. So most people weren't going to be market makers, even though it could be quite a profitable thing to do. Whereas with AMMs, all you do is you can go onto Uniswap, for example, and press deposit, and then you put your money in. And when you come back, hopefully the value will have slightly gone up because you get paid some of the fees for all the trading. And what that means, of course, is that you get good liquidity, even on pairs that like there might be no one who's that bothered to provide liquidity, but because it's so easy, they do it anyway. And so that's like really why DeversiFi's built them as well, because we already had order books, and that meant that like for if you wanted to trade ETH or Bitcoin or like a bunch of other like really well-known tokens, you could get a great price because someone is willing to run those bots and like make money doing it. But if you wanted to trade some token that no one's ever heard of or that only launched like a week ago, we didn't have liquidity on that because there was no market makers. Whereas with the AMM, anyone can then do it and earn DVF tokens and fees. So yeah, I think it's a good innovation from DeFi. I think it is something that directly competes with some of the centralized exchanges and like has improved on them and won't go away. We might even see like lots of centralized exchanges eventually start to copy it.
Yeah, I was seeing a bunch of that stuff, so I was curious. I think a lot of people are starting to implement AMMs in DeFi. It does make them a lot more competitive with centralized exchanges, huh? But where can people actually? Where's your community at? Are you guys like on Discord? Are you on Telegram? Or on social media? Where should people go if they want to like get involved with the community?
Definitely the best place is in Discord. And as I said, we're going to be launching our governance sort of process very soon, which will have a forum and other places you can participate. But right now, Discord is the most active. If you want to ask the team questions, we're always in there. And it's a really good group of community and users. So I'd recommend joining our Discord for sure.
Okay, sweet. I'll jump in there and I'll stir the pot a little bit. Why not? Cool. That's a good place to wrap it up, I think. Will, thanks for taking the time to come on the podcast and talk about DeversiFi and DeFi and what you guys are doing in the space and the impacts you guys are having as well. Really appreciate you taking the time to explain it to my audience today.
Awesome. Yeah, it was great to talk, and looking forward to seeing you on our Discord.
Yeah, you'll see me there soon. All right. See you later.
Cheers.